An historic verdict in an historic trial. A judge ruling that big pharma should share the blame for America's opioid epidemic. So what happens now? Jason Doyle has in-depth reaction and expert analysis.
All rise.
Thank you. Please have a seat.
After 2 years and 8 weeks at trial, Cleveland County District Judge Thad Balkman delivered his verdict, $572 million from Johnson Johnson to the state of Oklahoma to abate the opioid crisis.
This is a temporary public nuisance that can be abated, and the proper remedy for public nuisance is equitable abatement.
That amounts to just 1 year of funding based on the $17 billion plan laid out by state officials. Balkman said he was restricted by law to limit the award.
Whether additional programs and funding are needed over an extended period of time, those are determinations to be made by our legislators and policymakers. In this moment, and based on this record, this is what the court can and will do to abate the nuisance.
Balkman retains jurisdiction over the case and might be asked to rule on other matters related to it in the future. Attorney General Mike Hunter calls the judgment a day of reckoning.
Johnson & Johnson will finally be held accountable for thousands of deaths and addiction caused by their activities.
Hunter feels the state is on solid footing to push back against the opioid crisis in Oklahoma.
Certainly, we would have liked to walk out of here with $17.5 billion, $17 billion in change. But realistically, we've been able again to put together almost $1 billion to help Oklahoma work its way through.
That figure includes earlier settlements with Purdue Pharma and Teva Pharmaceuticals. As far as other lawsuits against opioid distributors, pharmacies, and doctors, Hunter says everything is on the table. Of course, Johnson & Johnson believes the verdict is wrong.
We have sympathy for all who suffer from substance abuse. But Johnson & Johnson did not cause the opioid abuse crisis here in Oklahoma or anywhere in this country.
And the drug maker says it isn't giving up yet.
We have many strong grounds for appeal, and we intend to pursue those vigorously.
It's our understanding that Johnson & Johnson plans to appeal. That process can take anywhere from 2 to 3 years is what I'm being told by the lawyers on the state's team. But as soon as we know that that money is actually being deposited in the bank, then what we'll see is an expansion of treatment.
Mental Health Commissioner Terry White says the $572 million award will get Oklahoma started down the road to recovery.
It's going to allow the expansion of medication-assisted treatment, which is the gold standard treatment for someone struggling with opioid addiction. We have been actually leading the way in the state of Oklahoma, and the judge's order mentions this. We've been leading the way, primarily led by the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services, but with a ton of our partners to have evidence-based interventions already started.
Once the money is in place, patients will start seeing more pain management options that don't include opioids.
And what we know is that the other part of this abatement plan is going to fund alternative pain services, actual evidence-based treatment for pain that gets at the root cause by providing more opportunities for physical therapy and other things that can actually treat pain instead of just masking the symptoms.
Because of efforts already in place, Oklahoma might have seen the peak of the opioid crisis.
So the good news in the state of Oklahoma is that the last few years, because of the efforts that we've been leading, providing naloxone when we can to first responders, expanding access where we have been able to and had limited resources for medication-assisted treatment, Oklahoma has actually been coming down in our number of opioid overdose deaths.
White says doctors are prescribing fewer opioids in Oklahoma, too. This verdict and the state's abatement plan are setting an example for the thousands of other lawsuits filed against opioid makers.
What I've been told is that this judgment and this abatement plan, which I was the primary architect of, but had lots of help from amazing folks in the state of Oklahoma, is going to help set the path for other states that are earlier in the process. And certainly what we would say to those other states is we're here and available and happy to share any information with you that you might need.
Jason Doyle, the Oklahoma News Report.